3, 2, 1.
Check it out.
Yo, what it do, what it do, what it do? What's good, everybody? Let's get the horns going.
What up, folks out there in Facebook land?
Yeah, so if you one of the few that rock with us early, we be having some technical difficulties that just be coming out of nowhere with the whole cloud and the files and the videos and all of that. But nevertheless, I think what's most important is that we are here.
We here.
We here. We
What
out here.
up, what up, what up, everyone? To the 11 folks that are joining us even now. Happy Friday.
Yeah.
Sabbath.
Yeah, yeah. Happy Sabbath to all the Adventists that are watching us.
right.
We have a lot of friends in other spaces, so happy Friday.
Happy end of the week.
Happy end of the week.
We made it.
Happy you made it. Happy you still alive. Happy all that.
You better preach.
Right. And if you're not, sometimes people don't even watch us on Friday. They watch
That's
us
true.
during the week. So happy whatever day it is.
Right.
I hope you are having a full and blessed life.
That's good, real good. As you know, our custom, if you are watching us and you're one of the brave ones, go ahead and put your name in the comments so that we can go ahead and shout you out and give you your horn so that we know who's here watching us, who's present and accounted for.
Yeah, because we know it's 15 of y'all.
16. It's 16. It's 16. It's 16
of y'all.
out
We
there.
know
What's
y'all
going?
out
What's
there.
good?
So
What's good?
somebody say what's up. You know you want your horns.
Right. You know you want the horn. So today I have Jamie. So you see how Jamie has, for those of you listening on Spotify and on the podcast, you can't see Jamie right now, but he has on these nice Sony fancy headphones. And look what kind of headphones he gave me.
No, don't even sell them that. Tell them why you have on those headphones. Tell them why. I
have on these headphones because you didn't want to get me those.
No. Because you said, I'm not wearing that. I don't want to put that on my head.
Right. Can you imagine me? What would I look like with those on my head? I'm not that. I'm not there yet.
You'll look cool and professional.
I'm sure. But I'm not there yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick with my little Apple headphones that I haven't worn in like years. Because now I have the AirPods. So it is what it is.
It is what it is.
How was your week?
My week was good. We got family in town, so that's always a great thing. And yeah, I've been good. No stress in the day. I feel like, are we close in the camera? Are you good?
I feel like I am a little closer
move
than
back.
usual,
We can
right?
move back. How do y'all
I feel like I'm like right here. Was that in the corner?
I don't know, but it's all good. I have to see that. There we go. Boom.
But I'm not. I don't know what I was saying, but here I am. I don't know what I was saying, but anyway, you're supposed to ask me how was my week.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's how this works.
How was your week, Madam Calazar?
My week I had a pretty good week. I had a transformational week, a week where I think it started with a sermon that a dear friend of mine shared with me. And I'll maybe post it on my page so that you guys can be able to view, for those of you who are interested, to view the actual sermon that I heard about faith. And I've heard the story tons of times. I've heard it preached. As a matter of fact, Jamie has a sermon with this very same story when Jesus was on the did I hurt myself?
When Jesus was on the boat.
When Jesus was on the boat, and how this preacher broke it down. Like, I don't want to be a spoiler. I don't want to give spoilers, but It was so good. But I'll post it on my page so that for those of you who are interested in wanting to know about, not wanting to know how to strengthen that faith, that sermon right there is so good. So as a result of listening to that sermon, like I want to be in the word more. Like I was telling my friend, like, listening to devotionals or whatnot, not listening to it or even reading devotionals, it's all good. It's great. However, there's nothing like sometimes just reading God's word, like just without the interpretation of what other people are saying about the particular text or the particular scripture. So I ended up reading a chapter, reading the word of God, and then writing my response to what I felt God was telling me in that moment. So it was just like, I was like, okay, God, I see what you're doing. So it was really good.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
It was really, really good. I'm really happy with that. So my week was pretty chill, of course. The Samuels are here, so it's always good. I don't even know if they wanted me to shout them out, but we shouting them out. And so we're just so glad that they are here in this space with us, them and Shy. And Shy is a part of the
Samuels. That's right.
Right. But yeah, just wanted to shout them out. And we're so grateful for having family in town.
Yeah, boy. Yeah. So we got people in the comments.
Okay.
Glovelyn Miller, what up?
What up, Glovelyn? He
Okay.
says, good evening and happy Sabbath, Pastor and my sis.
Dexter Christian in the hit out.
What up? Okay, you vacationing in South Carolina, is that?
Nice.
Okay.
Guys, Jean-Louis.
What up, guys? Welcome to the chats.
Yeah.
Welcome to the chats. Okay. All right, folks. Okay, folks. Can we get back to this?
The good stuff.
Yeah. Can we get to the good part? Okay. So essentially, last week we talked about how does trauma affect us as adults in our relationships and in our relationships, specifically Jamie's and I relationship. So the first thing I want to actually do is understand the nature of, and not that I forgot, I just didn't even think to do it last week, which was for those that are listening, that this may be a space that can be triggering, right? It can be triggering for some. And so take care of your mental health. If this is too hard or burdensome, not burdensome, but it's too hard to kind of process, we completely understand. But shout out to Mia. I want to give her some horns.
Me and Naomi.
I believe her name is, she did tell me her name. Her name is Armina. Yes. And she actually got in the DMs real quick and really gave some really good pointers. And one of the things I kind of want to preface our conversation with first is she says, please mention something along the lines of being patient and compassionate with yourself. Uncovering childhood trauma can stir up intense emotions. It is crucial to be patient and compassionate with yourself throughout the process. Give yourself permission to feel and process your emotions while practicing self-compassion and self-care. The process of uncovering and healing from childhood trauma can be challenging, but with the right support and resources, it is possible to move towards healing, resilience, and a healthier future. So just kind of wanted to put that out there, because sometimes when you are triggered, when you have these triggers and you're talking about your traumas, it can make you sometimes feel, it can kind of
bring you back to that place.
Yeah.
It can put you back in that box.
Oh, yeah.
And claustrophobic. Yeah.
And if I'm being honest, it did that to me. I did not expect that talking. And when I say I didn't expect, I've not shared like this on this platform in this same way. And so I actually did have some
we had
triggering
to.
moments after the live. Like I had to sit in the tension that I felt. And with vulnerability, I understand that it takes a lot out of you, right? It takes a lot out of you to be vulnerable, especially vulnerable with especially things that you have not necessarily shared openly before. And so I needed to have several moments to process through what it is that I said, what I did share. And, like when you're vulnerable, you always, for me, I ask myself, did I share too much? Did I really tell the story the way that I wanted it to be told? Just a whole lot of things that enter my mind as I about processing. It also gave room for conversation with not only people in my family, but other people who shared their story via inboxing us, telling us, sharing us. I said inboxing, but DMing us, letting us know how they appreciated this episode and they appreciate the platform in which we are uncovering how it does affect your relationships and finding solutions to helping and dealing with it. So, yeah.
No, I'm just like thinking about as you were talking that when it comes to sharing things like trauma or hurt or pain, I think perhaps the reason why we don't share is because of how exhausting it can be. So you probably had an experience where you did share, or probably an experience where you thought about sharing, but you were just like, you know what? This is tiring.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine like even after that experience we had after last week's show, that it can almost, in some ways, I guess the negative aspect could be like, I don't want to go through this again.
Right.
Let me just go back to my life of ignoring it and numbing it and just keep on going. So it's that exhausting feeling that comes with releasing that trauma.
Yeah. It literally, like you always talk about, like when you preach, right? When you're preaching, I feel like this is too close to me. When you're preaching, that after you're finished, like you just feel this like
relief.
It's like you're drained in that sense where you're just kind of like, right? And I felt like that's how I felt after.
Yeah.
I just felt like I felt heavy but light, if that makes sense. Heaviness from processing what I said in the space, but light in terms of being able to just shed that and just be proud of the journey, be proud of moving forward. What does moving forward look like? Like for me, it showed me like I'm not stuck, right? I'm not allowing this thing to define me. I'm not allowing this trauma to create a narrative about who I am at my core. So, yeah.
Another round of applause.
Yeah. So I just
Standing ovation.
Yes.
After doing a little Rihanna.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
All right.
As I like that. Oh, me and Naomi is on here. Disclaimer. What up, me and Naomi? Thank you.
Yes. Adriana said it was dope. I'm sorry, Adriana, I'm jacking up your name. She said it was dope to realize that I was not alone in the feelings and the need to recover.
Yeah, shout out to vulnerability.
That's good right there. I think it was, what's that lady's name? She's like I don't know. I think she's like the author of Vulnerability. What's her name? I'm sure in the comments you guys can help me out. Brene Brown. There it is. I didn't even need to go to the comments. I got you right here.
I always hear about Brene Brown. No hate on Brene Brown. Always no hate on Brene Brown.
She's like on top of all things vulnerability. So, grateful for her to be able to share what she shared. Tiffany, what's up? Happy Sabbath, girl.
Yo, let me give you a horn.
Jesus. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get right into it because it was, as we said, we're gonna keep it to an hour until we are able to record our episode for our podcast and on Apple and Spotify, and then on Fridays we can kind of lengthen it a little bit, extend that time.
Yeah.
Where
I
we
actually
can.
like the hour.
You like the hour? Of course
Yep,
you do.
I like the hour.
For me, I'd be like, no, let's talk. Oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about.
No.
And he's like, we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
We're good. But okay, so a recap of last week's episode. We talked about. You go first because I feel like I've been talking a lot. So you go first.
You good.
No,
you
go. You got it.
All
you
right.
talk about, I guess, just recap your trauma.
My trauma from
like
last
what we
week?
talked about. No, not from last week, but like your side of your trauma. Does that make sense?
We're recapping last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
So from what I understand from last week, we were just talking about, just the whole abandonment piece and how that affected or within our relationships or relationship, not relationships, but just in our relationship, how parenting, childhood, adulthood, and how what we've experienced as a child and how that affected us in our adulthood and the decisions that we make, the choices that we make collectively, and how sometimes our childhood trauma navigates and dictates, and even like what's the other thing? It how we gravitate to people that we're attracted to people that enable our traumas, if that makes any sense, right? The kind of people that we find ourselves around. So last week was just really talking about the beginning stages, and I think this week we want to talk about dig deeper into that push and pull part of our relationship, and that I want you here, but I don't want you here, and just digging further deeper into this whole thing about picking up the pieces, and how do we get to the third episode where we're coming to the solutions of what worked, what we are doing, and what else we need to do. Yeah.
So our trauma was being. I think the trauma was first coming from families where our families separated, right? Divorce. So that was the trauma. Jamie's trauma. I think that's what I wanted you to speak into, but it's fine. You kind of gave an overview, but it's okay.
Because I'm not jumping the gun. I'm waiting until we get into our episode tonight.
Oh, before recapping what we shared about the homes splitting.
Right.
Oh, okay. So we're not on the same page, clearly.
No.
So I'm gonna just let you lead. Go ahead.
All right.
Go for it.
So today we want to talk about picking up the pieces and just some things that we found in regards to trauma, right? So here's this quote that you found. I think this is the one that you found. Trauma in childhood can also impact a person's ability to communicate their needs, desires, and feelings effectively. And this can lead to misunderstandings and conflict in adult relationships.
I'm sorry. Can you go back? Because we just want to take one thing at a time.
Okay.
Right? One, because that's a different slide that's a different quote for something else, right?
Yes.
So let's don't if you cannot remove it. So if you can just take it a little bit slower in what you just read.
Trauma in childhood.
Are you serious?
So trauma in childhood can also impact a person's ability to communicate their needs, desires, and feelings effectively.
Okay. So in childhood, they can also impact a person's ability to communicate. Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Let's dig a little bit deeper in terms of what does that look like for you, us?
Oh yeah, I think for me, in our relationship, it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly, right? I think definitely that I thought I knew what I needed. No, let me go back. Let me just say this. I don't think when we started dating, I was ready to date.
Ooh. I think I need a moment of silence. Okay.
I don't think that
That was like intense.
yeah, I don't think that I was mentally mature enough to handle or to understand the importance of what a relationship is and what it needs to be. I didn't have a lot of experience in healthy relationships. So I didn't know what I needed from you. I didn't know what I desired from you. I didn't know how to communicate to you because I didn't grow up, or I'm gonna say not that I was forced, but I don't feel like I was ever in a place or position to communicate, to learn how to express myself, to learn how to say I don't like that, or learn how to say I want this, or I don't want that. Like how we are in our adult relationship, in our marriage, and that took like us getting married for me to be able to say my wishes and my wants. But I definitely believe that in the early stages of our relationship, and in any relationship I had before that, I think because I just liked the person and I was physically attracted to the person, and the person had on the outward, you had definitely qualities and characteristics that I felt I needed as studying to be a pastor, that would match. But I never knew exactly. I don't think I was mature enough to know exactly what I wanted to express that to you. So I think that's why we went through like the push and pull.
Right.
Because I don't know what I want. I know that I like you a lot.
Right.
But I don't know I don't know how to express myself, my needs, because
That's good.
I don't know how to communicate.
That's good. That's really good because it makes sense. It makes a whole lot of sense, right? Because I remember that a lot of our disagreements, arguments that we used to have was because, right, we both didn't know how to do those things effectively.
Right.
Right.
Right. Like I didn't have nobody coaching me on what to look for in a relationship or how to be in a relationship. My coaching was from what I saw in videos and just, if you like somebody, then you just date them. And then if it don't work out, it don't work out. But I really think like I fought to really make us work out. And then within later on in the relationship, I fought to not make it work out.
Right.
And so we can get deeper into that as we go further into the episode.
You just gave a whole lot of stuff right there, honestly. Yeah, you did. You did.
Me and Naomi said that's trauma bonding.
That is a lot because I think a lot of us, let me just say myself, not a lot of us. Let me say me. Let me speak for me. I think I too, I agree with you that if I really sat down and thought about it a little bit more, I would say that I thought I was ready, right? I was 21-ish, right? And I felt that I was in a position of, my relationship with God is great.
I'm an adult.
These are things that I know I want in a man. So I'm just going to go ahead and, be very particular and specific about what I want in a man without really dealing with the emotions or with the trauma, right, that I had. And so what happens now is we both come into this thing expecting that it would evolve or it would be like, amazing from jump because, oh my gosh, we're both Adventists.
Yeah.
We both love Jesus. We both like to study the Lord's word. Oh my gosh, we love to pray together.
Right. And that's all we need.
But that is just here, as I always say, like that's just scratching the surface of it. And I'm not saying that having those things doesn't help, right? Because you want to make sure that the person that you're with understands and they too can be able to be spiritually mature in that way. But that is not end all. That is not that is not all of it, right? It comes from coming from a place of being emotionally sound, and we both were not emotionally sound.
Right. And you know, like when you start a relationship with somebody, you don't start the first date with like, you know, I come from a divorced home.
Right. I'm broken.
I'm broken. I got issues. Somebody, you know, you start off with giving off the impression that you're together, you got it, you good, and this is gonna be all right, right? And then as you get deeper and deeper, further in, your trauma or your issues begin to start surfacing, but you still don't even know how to handle it, confront it, or pinpoint it. So, like the quote said, you know, the last part of the quote, here's what it says. It says, this can lead to misunderstandings and conflict in adult relationships.
Facts. And conflict we had a lot of conflict because I didn't know how to process my trauma. And to Duell's comment, he says sometimes we use relationships to get away from our trauma, right? How many of us have used a man or used a woman to distract us, to kind of hide behind the relationship in trying to hide or get away from what our trauma is, not realizing that the trauma literally, there's but so long a time that you can go without it coming out of your pores, because it's your trauma essentially begins to shape who you are, if not what's the word I'm looking for? If not addressed.
Right.
It just becomes this, it just grows bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it becomes you, it just becomes who you are. And then like you have a relationship now and the person's like, yo, why are you tripping out every time I do this? Be like, I don't know why I'm tripping out, but you're tripping out because of a particular trauma that you've experienced, that you have not began that process of healing and, you know, getting to that healing place.
Yeah. Totally. Whew. Because as the comments, you know, me and Naomi still dropping bombs in here that where it carries a trauma, but I think it's also the tools, right? Not having access to the tools. I feel like we're in and this is 40, how old am I? 44? This is 44-old Jamie talking right now. Looking back 20 years, looking back 23 years. I don't think as a society, particularly too in the Black and I'm gonna say African American community, that talking, expressing, and even access to a podcast like this or audiobooks that talk about, you know, mental health and all that stuff. You know, we didn't grow up with that. Now, people might say, white people might say they've always had a therapist or they've always where it was okay for them, but for us, I think we just learn as we go, trial and error, trauma to trauma. But the unfortunate thing is that, you know, sometimes we get married hoping that marriage would fix a porn addiction or marriage would fix, you know, my issues or my problems because now I'm with somebody who I love, but marriage just uncovers it.
Man, it reveals that thing. It magnifies it, if anything.
Right.
As we shared last week, Mia says, some of us think that a fresh new relationship will make it go away or fix the brokenness, but we are the carriers of the trauma. We are the carriers of the trauma, and it cannot be ignored. If folks that are tuning in and you've probably come to a place where you feel like, yo, I can get away with it. I've been living with it for all my life. You know, I've been hiding it for all my life. And the person I'm with, they don't need to know that. They will eventually know it. If you're in it for the long haul, they will eventually know it. And you want them to know it because it's a part of who you are at your core. And it's important for them to understand you, not just this person can do this, and this, but, you know, really understanding why you do what you do, why you act the way you act, why you say the things that you say, or why you respond to certain things that happens in your relationship.
Yeah, and these childhood traumas are not just we don't just pick them up from our families or our homes. We pick them up from school. You know what a teacher
TV.
what a teacher
Sorry,
said
go
to
ahead.
us. What TV said. What kids in our neighborhood made fun of. You know, body shaming us and things like that. And you grow up with that stuff. You don't know how you like. As somebody called me like a buck-toothed beaver, who I'm gonna talk to about that?
Right. Be like,
I'm just
somebody call me.
I'm gonna internalize that, and then I'm gonna think if I just move myself away from that, and I think the same thing we do at relationships. If I leave a bad relationship and I get into a new one, it's gonna be gone. I'm gonna leave that back. But it's like that illustration I always use. It's like, you know, with the rear view mirror, objects in the mirror are closer than they appear.
Yeah.
Your trauma, as according to me, no, you carry that stuff and you don't run away from it. It's with you.
Yeah.
So it don't matter what school you go to. It don't matter what relationship you get into. It don't matter what you do until you address it or until you're maturing. Yeah, address it. Then that's when the healing begins.
Yes. And once you acknowledge it, be like, yo,
I'm jacked up.
I'm jacked up, or I don't know how to even communicate properly because all my life I've been made to just be silent, not say anything, just listen and just be, right? I think communication is something that is learned, right? And the more you do it, the better you get at it. And some people really don't have a clue how to do those things because they weren't taught it. Going back to what you were talking about, you know, you saying that you were not ready for a relationship and how this constant thing of trying to figure out what exactly is causing this pushing and this pulling of sorts, right? What do you think was your were things that you identified and so, let me say this. What is probably one or two things that you had to learn in the moment or in the moments of the struggle of this like back and forth of what we were experiencing?
That's a good question. I'm just trying to go back. I think for me, what made me double down. No, let me go. Well, I'm trying not to skip ahead to when like I got serious about you and was like, yo, because you remember we went through a period where you were like push and pull, and then I went through a period of
So let's say
I'm done.
Right. So let's say the push and pull is I'm pushing him away.
We're
Right.
talking about the early part of our
So I'm
what made
defining
me stay. Okay, define.
But I'm defining the push and the pull,
Okay.
right? So the pushing and the pull is I'm pushing him away, right? With what I'm saying, how I'm treating him, and what I'm saying and how I'm treating him, I'm pushing him away because it feels as though I don't want him to get close. So I'm going to push him away. However, it's almost like based on things that he does, how he responds to the push. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to pull you in. I want to pull you closer. But the closer that I feel like you're getting too close, I'm going to go ahead and push you away because that is my response to that, right? It reminds me of something, right? Like the closer I get to him, if I get too close, that there's a great possibility that he may push me all the way away, right? So that pushing and pulling, I just wanted to define that.
Yeah, no, that's good. So I would say early in the relationship, I think for number one, I knew that wasn't who you were. Mm-hmm. So I knew for a fact that the pushing and the pulling or the pushing was coming from something bigger than just me. So I always knew that. I think I was always good at knowing like, yo, you're not really like that. But I think also too, it came from a low self-esteem within myself that I didn't value myself enough to say that I didn't deserve that. Right. I think also number three was I stuck around with the push and pull because you were literally like a Sour Patch Kid, right? Like you were sweet one day, and then you turn sour in the same day, and then you turn sweet again. And so I think, and then also too with like, I really felt convicted by God that you were a godly woman, a spiritual woman, and that you definitely matched my ministry, right? And not just matched my ministry, but also we matched in so many different ways with clothes, with music at that time. You know, we just really vibe. So I think, and also last but not least, I really was a believer in the way we met.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the way we met made me. I think that's probably. I would probably put that number one. The way we met made me a believer that you were who God called me to be with. So, whatever negative happened in between that, my spirituality told me don't walk away from it because that's who I want you to be with. So I don't even know if that was the spirit saying that or that was my mind, me telling myself
right.
that I had to stick with this. No matter what happened, no matter what went on in the early parts, to stick with it.
That's good. That's good. Just if you can just please scroll, producer.
Yeah. I don't know what's up with the comments. It's not showing up on our thing. We might have to switch platforms.
Maybe.
But yeah.
But if you can just because we lost some of them. Okay. So there, you know what? Let me do this. Sorry guys. Because I really want to capture the comments as well. Jamie and I talk to each other all the time.
True.
So I want to make sure that, and I may have missed it. I may miss it on here. Nope, I think I found it.
You better scroll back.
Okay, yeah. So, so Rodney. Hi, Rodney. I don't think I saw your name ever in our chat, so welcome. Okay, so Rodney says, folk may not know they are sick. What is our responsibility if we see the sickness in a friend, family, etc.? And so
I'm sure
Mia answered it. She said, firstly, observe and listen approach with caution and compassion, non-judgment, express concern and support, especially using I statement, encourage, help, but respect their autonomy. That's good. Perfect. That's wonderful. Glad that you are
Mia
there
is
in the
resident
comments.
therapist. We got to get Mia on the show.
I know. All right. Yeah. Okay. So all those things that you made mention, what caused you to stay in spite of all that was happening. And it's so crazy, right? Like, I feel like sometimes our trauma really leads us to spaces and places that, because we don't know what to do with it. And so I'm glad that you stuck around, and I'm glad that we weathered the storm together. Yeah, I'm glad you weathered the storm. Now, do we transition to your push and your pull, or do you want to go to what the next?
Yeah. So I think my push and pull will come out in this.
Yes.
So women with father issues.
So pause. I want to give credit where credit is due. My good sis, Crystal sent this to me via Instagram. There is a name attached to this quote. I just don't know it. I don't have that information right now, but just wanted to share that before you shared that.
Okay. So women with father issues have difficulties disconnecting from the men in their lives, while men with mother issues have difficulty connecting with the women in their lives.
If you can keep that up for just a little bit. So let me try to speak to women with father issues have difficulties disconnecting from men in their lives. So it's crazy how the mind works, right? It's almost like, because I was disconnected from my father, right? That that I would want to be as disconnected with another man. Right?
Yeah.
But that's not the case
It's not the case.
at all.
And I think it can be the case, but it's not always the case.
It's not always the case.
Right.
I'm trying to think for me personally, did I have issues disconnecting? I don't think I had issues disconnecting, if I'm honest.
You don't think you had issues disconnected from me?
Like at the very first, and when like our first time, like I would say the first year, I don't think I had a hard time disconnecting from you.
Okay.
I think the more of the push and pulling, the more deeper we got in terms of you learning the things that I went through as a child, and me learning the things that you learned as a child or went through as a child. It made the connection that much deeper, right? So it's hard to disconnect from you if I'm finding trust, if I'm finding security, if I'm finding all these things, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the disconnecting piece came after
The trouble with disconnecting. You're saying trouble with disconnect. You're just saying disconnecting.
disconnecting. I feel like me wanting to disconnect from you came at the beginning, and it came towards the ending of our dating piece. Does that make sense? Like when we first started, I was like, oh, if it don't work out, it'll work out. I'm
Right.
okay.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
good. You're good.
I got you.
When we started going through where it seems as though you were pushing me away, I was like, yo, I don't have to stay and deal with this because I know what it feels like to be abandoned in that way.
So you're saying the more emotionally invested,
The more
got in-
emotionally invested,
the harder it was to disconnect.
the harder it was for me to disconnect from you. I think if we kept it surface, I'll be like, yo, I'm good. And that's it. But because we were growing together as a couple, I think that made me want to not disconnect, but the disconnect came again when you were tripping. But as you were.
No.
Okay, so before you answer that question, before we go on, Mia says, I'm sorry, did either of you have a hard time with fear of rejection or fear of abandonment? I said, I definitely did.
I don't think I had a hard time with fear of abandonment. I think maybe fear of rejection, definitely. But in the context of our relationship, yes, I think fear of, I'll say both of them. I did. I think in that latter part when you put me through, because you put me through two different spin cycles. You put me through the first spin cycle of the push and pull.
The pushing. I was doing more pushing.
The pushing. Then there was the spin cycle of, I'm going to use my words. I need you to prove that you want to be with me. And I think that was more emotionally traumatizing for me than the push, because that was when I finally had a turnaround and I finally said I really wanted to be with you. And in my brain, I'm thinking you're going to be like, gone with the wind, running, catch each other in the arms. But you were like, no, I'm tired of you. Show me. And I think that fear of being rejected by you was real, and that fear of abandonment, because I honestly at that point I came to a realization that I don't think I was ever going to be able to date somebody like you or find somebody like you. So that's why I was like, man, I'm gonna double down. And I think it leans into the whole idea that when a man really wants something, he works for it. Yeah. So I think definitely fear of rejection, fear of abandonment was maybe a catalyst or a push to fight for us, but also there was that real love. I think, that growth within me, that maturity
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. I definitely feared being abandoned the same way I felt like my father abandoned me. And I felt rejected by my father. And as a result, I didn't want to feel that ever again. So my defense mechanism is to put up all of my guards to protect myself from being hurt again I won't say my first love. It's kind of hard to wrap my head around what that means or what that looks like with my father and myself. But the first person that I really, the first man that I like really adored, and I guess first love, I guess I just think myself, but the first man that I adored, and then to know that in my adoration for him that he let me down in such a significant way, I did not want that to happen. But I feel like in my previous relationships, I feel like I became more attached to the person more than I should. And because I realized that I was really afraid of being rejected, fear of being left alone.
Now I'm gonna give you where the fear of rejection and abandonment was with me with the push and pull. The fear of rejection and abandonment was from my family. So
Okay, we going there.
So the fear of losing the relationship, or the my mother, and that's not for you. You're not ready to get married. You need to this. That's not the one. So there's also that internal struggle, external struggle of, yo, do I go against
Mercy.
the person that has been the guiding factor for most of my life? But the battle also is like, but I don't see what you see, and I see somebody who's good for me, right? So there's also that other fear and rejection that mothers and sons go through, that some mothers and sons go through, that some sons go through when it comes to leaving and cleaving and going to something else. Because a son always, I'm assuming, most sons would want their mother's blessing and validation in regard to who is going to be the next leading woman in their life. So there's also that fear of that rejection, that abandonment, of making your own choice to be like, nah, this is what I really want. Or do you still be that child and be like, you know what? You know more than me. You see something I don't see. So I'm a back off.
That's, yeah. Yeah, that's you got me silent over here because I guess not that I didn't expect, but it was just like, whoa, we went there, we're going there, okay, but it's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing for some men, right? For some, and I know other guys who have battled that. Like, if you don't get that, if you don't get that blessing is real for mothers and their sons. When dad isn't there, that thing is real. When it comes to, sometimes there is that fight that is gonna be, yo, I gotta choose. It almost becomes to a point where it's like you gotta choose one.
Mercy.
What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? Me who raised you, or some new thing that's coming around that got your head spinning and wilding and going crazy? So, you run that. So some guys go through that. Yo, they really like and really love the girl, but if mom's is not feeling it, they will cut that thing off and chuck up the deuces.
They would definitely do. And if I can speak to that, the push that I was feeling from you came from that part of you not believing, but you warring. I believe it was like legit warring between the two concepts of, this is my mother. This is exactly, I've trusted her up to every big part of my life. I've trusted her with her insight, her ability to discern and give light or understanding to lots of things in your life. And then and then over here you have me, who's like, like we've been dating for 7 years. Well, it wasn't 7 years quite then. I think we were like in year 5, maybe 4 or 5. And so here you have the crux of your push is based on this
and
fear of abandonment.
And then because my trauma or just my way of dealing with things, my push is I'm never going to say it's because my mother's not feeling you. I'm going to find every other excuse to get out of this relationship.
And you did. Let's be honest.
I'm going to blame myself.
And you did.
I'm going to blame myself. I'm going to say, things just say, I'm not going to say that because I don't want the narrative to be, he's a mama's boy. Because I don't know what you going to, like, if I do that, that's so crazy. If I break up with you and I say because my mom's not feeling you, I'm worried about what you going to go say to other people about me. Be like, man, he a mama's boy. Look at him. He up there preaching. Ain't nothing but a mama's boy. Look at him. All that stuff.
I mean, real talk, if I'm being honest in this space, I would definitely say that you have an allegiance to your mom, and you chose her. Mm-hmm. That's what I would say.
Right.
I wouldn't say you're a mama's boy.
Right.
But I would say that you had allegiance to her.
And that is such a difficult and traumatizing statement to accept or to deal with, because you don't want to be that, right? But the reality is, I'm like, I really am that. And then, after that just messes with everything else, right? Like any other relationship, because now all roads have to go through that strong mother figure and not your own. So there's that trauma as well, right?
Who, Jesus. So your push of pushing me away, you're making up these excuses, saying that you essentially, whatever it is, whatever excuses, I remember them, but I won't share them here. Mm-hmm. But the number of of things that you shared, why we can't, why we couldn't move forward in our relationship. And so in that period, I would say I had a fear of being abandoned and fear of, what's the other thing? Fear of abandonment and fear of rejection. I feared it all. So because I feared it, I was just like, yo, dude, if this is the thing that you want to do, do it. But you're going to do it without me, because I'm not going to sit in this space, in this tension of me feeling, let me get real, of me feeling like I'm not good enough, right? For us to take our relationship to the next level, the same way I didn't feel like I was good enough to for my father to invest the time in ensuring that we had a relationship, right? In allowing him to be able to be a father to me. So because you are kind of in a roundabout way showing me the very same thing that hurt me at my core, is now you're doing the same thing. Now we're good. And so for me, I literally, and when you heard me say, I am good, I do not want to go further with you. I meant it, and I meant it from a place of, one, I don't want to be abandoned. I don't want to be rejected. And I want the person that's with me to know that I'm enough. And if I'm not, then goodbye.
Yeah. And so
See you later.
here's the trauma in the non-confrontational personality that I have, is that I'm a like, so for non-confrontational people to be confrontational, it requires a lot of work.
Yes.
Like, it is a task, it is a burden, it is tiring. And so non-confrontational people like myself are going to sit and wait and pray and hope that everything just magically works out. Don't got to stand up to nobody. Everything's going to be cool. It's going to eventually work itself out. So I think that's why it dragged out for so long, because, you know, a non-confrontational person like myself doesn't want to hurt feelings. We value relationships. We want to make sure everybody's good, everybody's cool, and that it eventually works out. And I think also, too, I'm going to go as far as, for me, I'm going to say that I would even use prayer as a cop-out to not be confrontational. So I would pray to God to work it out so that I don't have to confront nobody, and God is in your hands, right? God, you gonna have to work this out. You go, because I'm not gonna say nothing. But it had to come to the place where I had to be like, I think for me, and to go back to when a man really knows what he wants, he's gonna do whatever he gets to get what he wants. That I had to make a decision to be confrontational, because I knew, and I realized this, like, at the end of the day, when I made a choice to marry you, my mother was still going to be my mother.
Right.
My father was still going to be my father. My sisters were still going to be my sisters. Everybody, there was no dynamic or relationship that was going to alter or be changed because of this decision or this choice. Maybe changed, maybe in some ways, but at the end of the day, nobody was going to die.
Right.
Nobody's going to lose their life. We were going to figure it out. And so it stepped into that, but it dragged out because I think, you know, I just always grew up to want to be a peacemaker.
Yeah.
I didn't want to grow up to be the one, because I look at confrontation as causing strife. I grew up with negative cues about confrontation. That every time I saw confrontation,
Right.
it was unhealthy. But I've never seen what healthy confrontation looks like.
So your response to that is no confrontation.
No confrontation, because it always, and I think particularly too, I don't know about in American homes, but in West Indian homes, like, they talk hard.
Yeah.
You know, like you sit down at a Thanksgiving dinner
Yeah.
with a bunch of West Indians,
Yeah.
and they're having a conversation, but they're yelling at each other.
Yeah.
They talk hard. So anytime they talk, it feels like, you know, like, yo, and I don't want no parts of that, because you know me, I don't argue, I don't yell at nobody. I say what I gotta say, and then I bounce. So unhealthy cues or unhealthy, what's the word I'm looking for? Seeing unhealthy ways of confrontation made me want to say, I don't want that. I'm going to just fall back.
And that's good. That's real good, Jamie, because it's so good, right? This is like stuff. This is the stuff that really makes a relationship work, right? You being open, available enough. And for me to be able to connect the dots, or help you to create, help you create connect the dots with regard to how you communicate, what your communication style is. How do you respond to conflict and confrontation, right? Those are all things, or all ways that was important. And unfortunately for us, we had to learn it in real time, right? As we're going through this process we're at this point of you pushing me away right? I had to learn real quick, like, yo, why is it that you are responding this way? Why is it that you are not doing this or doing that?
Yeah.
Realizing that.
Yeah. And Mario asked a good question. He asked if I'm the youngest. And I said, yeah, I'm the youngest.
He's
I
the
am,
youngest.
And there's like a 7-8 year gap between me and my older siblings. So yes, I am the youngest, because when I think about confrontation, when I think about confronting someone, I think it always has to be kicking the door, rah, rah, rah.
Right.
Like, yo, what you doing? Yo. Like, I don't know that a healthy confrontation can be, let's have a conversation. This is what I feel. This is what I notice. I prefer not, or I prefer to. Okay. And then move on. No. Every cue, every rap song, every movie, within my own personal space, when it comes to confrontation, it's always looked at as like, yo, it's yelling and screaming. It's never a conversation. Right? And so I think those things make me just be like, yeah.
You're good.
I'm good.
Whew. Jesus. Y'all.
We gave a whole meal
Listen, tonight. Oh my God. Lord.
Yeah. I think we probably need a part 4 because we didn't finish this one.
I don't know, but I want to I wanted to go back to the comment section. Well, I guess I can read it here. Whew. I think that was really good. Like, I almost want to say thank you for sharing that.
Oh, okay.
In this space. No, for real. Because you are not, in general, I think I've become like more of this, right? Like, I'm sharing. And for you to, in this space, to share what you just shared, I am really thankful that you were able to feel comfortable enough to share.
Give myself a round of applause.
Oh, gosh. All right. Golovlin says, nice conversation that needed to be heard. Thanks. Mark McDonald says, facts straight. That's when he's responding to how West Indians talk. Marvin says, I'm impressed that in your early 20s, you both could identify your traumas. Most of us at that age are clueless. It took me identifying my triggers in my 50s.
Yeah,
wow.
Well, let's say more, but no, we didn't identify it in our 20s. We're identifying it now in our 40s.
Yeah, we did not. I wouldn't say we identified our traumas. What we did was we felt comfortable enough with each other to share those traumas with each other. We didn't know what to do with it. We didn't know how to interpret it to say, well, yo, this means that when this happens, when I do this, that this is how he's going to respond, and for me to be okay with that. We did not do that at all.
Right.
in our 20s. We just talked through a lot of things. And then now I would say we're at a place where in our relationship where we've identified it. I know what his triggers are. He knows what mine are. And we're still learning it, honestly. Yeah. Because even this week, if I'm being honest, and our time is so up, y'all. Our time is up.
Yeah, we got to come back for part 3.
So even
you can finish your thought.
Even in this space last week, like, this was a huge trigger for me. And as we turned off the camera, I sat at this desk right here, and I just felt deflated, as I shared before. And Jamie didn't say, well, yo, I'm out. I'll see you later. But he stayed in the space with me, and I was able to just kind of like do a verbal vomit of what it is I was feeling at that point in time. And he was able to help me, right? Help me through that process, through that. But that only came as a result of the work that we've been doing before.
Yeah. How do you lean into the discomfort? How do you lean into the uncomfortable and bring your whole self into it?
Yes. Mario says, I'm going to read the comments and then we're going to go. Mario says, I'm also the youngest of 8. And the peacemaker confrontation or lack thereof has probably caused more strife in my marriage, but thank God for therapy. Yo,
shout out to therapy. Let me get therapy.
We need a therapy, and we need to talk about, man, that would be a great conversation. How does being, these different styles of approaching conflict, like how that works to our benefit if dealt with the right way or processed through. Mark says, did you ever join the confrontation? Did you ever join the confrontation approach and then choose to reject it, or did you outright reject it altogether? Asking as a fellow wash belly Jamaican upbringing. So that's a question for you.
Yeah, no. Did I ever watch?
Did you ever join the confrontation approach?
Oh,
And then choose to reject it, or did you outright reject it altogether?
completely rejected it. Completely. And I think I can relate to Mario, where being the youngest and witnessing, and I think also too, that's the other thing, witnessing what confrontation, witnessing the outcomes of negative, unhealthy confrontation always made me say fall back, because I don't want that. Because I've seen strife, I've seen pain, I've seen tears, I don't think I've ever seen a confrontation with someone that ended in, all right, that's cool. How can we still,
Mercy.
that's cool. All right, thank you for telling me that. Like I've always seen it been like, well, all right, well, I'm leaving. Yeah, I'm
This
outta
back
here.
and forth.
Yeah, I'm punching your face. Yeah, it's never been like, oh, cool.
Like you come to a place of agree to disagree, or like this, what's the word I'm looking for? This like,
Yeah, I think it's amicable. Is that the
Amicable,
word?
yeah.
Agree to disagree. Like how it is at work, right? Like when you're at work and somebody does something, and that you can be with another mature person, you can just tell them, "Look, I didn't like what you did just now. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry that it made you feel that way." But the ones that I've seen, I don't know about you, but most confrontation, that joint never ever has looked. So I've just been like, I'm good. I'm all right. I don't want none of that.
yeah. Ooh, we got to talk about this next week. But okay, last question. Hadessa says, is a playback available? I would love to get caught up on the conversation and take some notes.
Oh yeah, so absolutely. So we on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts. It's Carlene plus Jamie. Can you type it in? Carlene + Jamie. So
I think they're gonna write it down. Okay, fine.
yeah. I wish that.
What am I writing?
Carlene,
Okay.
and then the +.
Oh dear.
You should know what our podcast is.
I do. I was just
Jamie.
testing you.
No word plus.
Okay.
There you go.
Plus,
No, the
okay.
+.
Okay. I knew that. The plus,
And Jamie.
Yes, keep talking. I'll do
And
it.
that's how you can find that's how you can find the rebroadcast. You can listen to your car, or it should still be up on Facebook later tonight and throughout the week. But hit the subscribe button. Spotify, Apple, you can watch it on Spotify, you can listen to it on Apple, and you can listen to it on Spotify, or you can find it on Facebook. But yeah, and if you want some real history, go back and catch part 1, which is on the podcast. Catch part 2, and then tune in next week for part 3.
So if you guys thought that part 1 was great, part 2 was great, part 3 is like the meat of it all, right? Not only, oh yeah, these are 2 people who have trauma and such, but how did we navigate through these traumas how did I get through the push? How did you do that, Carlene? How in the world did you get through the fact that this man is over here saying, I'm not sure what I want to do.
Right.
Do I listen to my mother, or do I follow my heart? Do I not follow my heart? Do I follow love? How did we go through, like, even from that? How did that lead into his Jamie not liking confrontation? How did that exactly work in our relationship, in our marriage? How did me liking confrontation, because I want people to know that I am not, my mom was a single mom, and she was a very strong single mother. How do I show up and let people know, like, don't do it? Like, I'm not gonna back away from confrontation, because I saw that she didn't back away. And there were moments in my childhood and experiences where there was some, it came to this, right? But at the same time, I'm not afraid of confrontation. Jamie is, I won't say he's afraid of confrontation, but he just doesn't like it.
Yeah.
He can get
like
confrontational,
oatmeal.
but he just doesn't like it.
Right.
So how do we do that? Those are things that we're going to talk. How do we work through those things? Like, those are things that we're going to talk about. And again, giving practical ways, real ways of how we were able to do that. And also talking through, how do we try to not be, try to be mindful to not have our kids experience trauma the way that we experienced. So that's something that we kind of want to talk through as well.
There we go. That's right.
Who, Jesus.
In the words of Lauryn Hill, how you gonna win when you ain't right within?
How?
Come on. You gotta be right within.
Yeah, y'all. So we have far outspent our time, but this was real good. We appreciate you guys so much. We love you guys. Have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week. This is Carlene.
And this is Jamie.
Peace.
Peace. Peace, yo. So this stuff be happening. I don't know why it be happening. Yo, this is not cool. I gotta figure it out. But this is Jamie. This is Carlene. Peace. All right.
Just locate the file. So that we can go ahead and go out.
Right. Yo, I don't understand why this is happening. But we might just have to just say peace like this.